Here we are at Wartburg, a grisly 12th century fortress, impregnable on a 1,200 foot precipice raised above the town in East Germany of Eisenach. You know, this is the state of Thungaria. It's where the Reformation began. It was the area that Martin Luther, born and raised, went to school, nailed the 95 Theses, was imprisoned here, an important factor in the rescue of the Reformation. You see, over at Worms in West Germany, near the conflux of the Neckar and Rhine rivers, he was tried as a heretic, 1521. He was snatched and rescued and put here under the guise of Junker George, or the Knight George. He was impersonating a knight, but he spent most of his time up in his room, and we'll be there in just a few moments. I'll show you the place on the wall where he threw his ink pen at the devil. The mark is still there, and it's listed in some of his writings. In any case, UNESCO has added Wartburg Castle and the town of Eisenach to its World Heritage List as an outstanding monument of the feudal period and of the cultural and universal religious significance, because it was here in this room that Luther spent his time doing some things that were very important to the Reformation and to the spread of Christianity throughout the world. One was to take the Latin Vulgate. Now, we saw the Latin Vulgate. It was written by St. Jerome in the grotto of Bethlehem 100 years after Christ, and he translated the Bible into Latin from the Old Testament Hebrew and from the New Testament Greek into the Vulgate. And that was the only translation that the modernists had up until the time of Luther. But only a few people could read the Latin, and those were the priests. And not all the priests could, and none of the people, because you see, by that time, Latina est lingua mortua. Latin was a dead language. And that's what I tried to tell my college professor. He didn't buy it, but I passed, okay? I passed Latin, not necessarily Greek and Hebrew, but I found it to be somewhat easier than Greek and Hebrew. In any case, Luther took the Bible, the New Testament, into German from the Latin Vulgate. And for the first time, the printing press started to print the New Testament, and it was scattered throughout Northern Europe, actually all of Europe at the time. Erasmus took it, the German, and translated into Dutch. Okay? Wycliffe took it, the German, and translated into English. And very few years later, we had our King James Version of the Bible, which was a Tyndale, and then Wycliffe translation of Luther's early work into English. And it spread through all the countries of Europe, finally into their own language, so that the common person could read the Bible for the first time. You know, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God, and by reading the Bible. And so Wartburg, the castle where we're going to spend the night, we're going to have a wonderful time to enjoy the beautiful countryside, walk around and see the castle, the place where Luther was holed up and disguised, founded in the 12th century, and a stronghold of Frederick the Wise, the Elector of Saxony, who was the protector and protagonist for Luther right here at Wartburg. It all happened here. And I'm thankful to be here, because I don't know of any other tours going to Oberammergau that are getting to spend the night in this castle. But we always do, because we get our reservation in 2 years ahead of time. And so that's why we can spend the night here. It's a high point of my trip, and I hope it is for you, and I know it will be. Auf Wiedersehen.